him right then.
Okay, so I don't exactly know what I said for the title for today, but it's about some like it hot. So these are some plants that are actually looking pretty good at this time of the year for us, which some of them I'm amazed. There's one plant which we'll see that when I looked at where it's from, it's like, I can't believe it's actually doing well here. And what we have done to it to make it look that way this year, it's been amazing. So, but to get started, I've gotten several questions about my planting I did earlier in May. For the 1st of May, I did a planting out at the street in front of our sign, and I had planned on going out there because it was planned for the heat, not planned necessarily for this tour. But we'll go out and briefly look and see how things are doing out at the sign in the tropical garden I did out there, which is a true some like it hot type planting. So we'll go out this way if you want to follow. So yeah, here's the entryway I did this spring in tropical plants. As you can see, they're adoring this weather for the most part. A couple things. I had a Senecio, which I lost totally. I had 3 of them, 2 over there and on the other inside the gate. They do not like it apparently here in our hot, sticky summers. I found this species of Senecio. But pretty much everything else is doing great, excepting my lantanas, which are getting lacebug, which I always get lacebug. And I can't spray them with anything that will kill all the pollinators. Love lantana, but as you can see, you can't even tell that my lantana aren't looking too great. But in here, things that are spectacular always. I love this grass up here. This is Pennisetum black stockings. It is the tallest of the black grasses that I can grow right here, I think. This is one, it'll get 10 feet tall by the end of summer. When they were planted, they were only about a couple sticks about a foot or so tall. So they've grown wonderfully. The corn, which is, this is a Zea perennis, and I'm winning streak or something like that is the cultivar on that. It's an annual corn forest, but it doesn't, or it's a tender corn forest, but it's, we grow it as an annual. Unlike regular corn, it doesn't get ugly and die after it sets flowers and sets seed. So wonderful foliage there, and that's what a lot of what I have in here is the foliage. The caladiums, they just hate it when it gets cold. This is their happiest time of the year, and they'll go on until October when things start to cool off. They will say it's too darn cold and I'm going to bed. And at that point, I'll just dig them. So they truly like it hot. Other things in here, I have some tender agaves down here in the foreground, and they're starting to grow. They're interplanted with the portulaca, which again is a true plant for the heat of summer. But the only thing is they're closed first thing in the morning and they close in mid-afternoon. So you have to see them during the hottest part of the day. So, but they're great for containers as a result when you're not at home. Everybody else can see them, and they're forgiving about water. So the bananas have done great in here as well. These are Musa, let's see, Siam Ruby on either side. I have a couple elephant ears, one over here. It's Portadora, and I don't remember which one that one is. It's not Mayan Mask, that's over there. That's another one. Something Shield, Royal Shield. Or Regal Shield. Regal Shield is that one over there. Again, all these are true heat-loving plants that have done just wonderfully this season. So just wanted to show this off a little more up close. And any questions? Any that I didn't mention? This one, if I want these to survive, yes. These will melt about 28 degrees. Okay. Couple years ago, we had the parent plant of these on the roof when we had the last moonlight, and we had our first freeze during moonlight, and it melted. And it took a while to recover, but these were resulting pups from that.
Caladium, did you do them from seed?
No. Caladiums are grown from tubers. And these are some we had left from the trials a couple years ago. It's something ballet, I think. I can't remember the name offhand on this one. But we do have this one in the trials again this year. But these are from 2 years ago, actually. And we've kept them. They're super easy to store, I found. Once they go dormant or start to go dormant, dig them before you lose them. That's why I say once they start to go dormant, dig them, dry them off, throw them into a paper bag, or if you have an old bulb bag, which is netted, or an onion bag, and then stick them in a paper bag or a box and stick them on a shelf in the closet, not in the basement where it's cool, and the regular part of the house where it's warmer. And they are great. Just get them out in May or the earliest I would say would be mid-May, and plant them directly out in, because we did this, actually I think that did it the first week that the interns were here, because it was with Matthew helped me actually stick these in right here. So they're super easy. Just don't treat them like you would any other bulb you store, because you don't want them cool, you want them warm. I doubt it, but who knows? It's in the Araceae, so the Elephiner family, the aeroid family. So they tend to have chemicals that are pretty nasty, though who knows? For us, the chemical in it can actually cause your tongue to swell. So one of the houseplants that you may have is a Dieffenbachia. And a common name for that is dumb cane. And the same chemical that's in there that causes the reason for dumbness, or that is unable to speak, is if you bite into it, the chemicals in it will cause your tongue to swell. There's crystals that, so same idea with that. So I have a feeling that maybe the voles might not touch them. Do you know if they'll eat Jack in the pulpits? I haven't had any issues with that, but that's another relative. They eat the leaves? Oy. But the bulbs typically have a higher concentration of chemicals in them. So, any other questions before we get going? Okay, so we're going to turn back around and we're going to go, actually we can go behind the visitor center and just take the shaded path. I'll lead the way. Okay, so the next plant I have here, or actually first plant in reality, individual, is Cestrum Parkii. This is plant, the only season that it's bad for it is winter, I think. So it does great in our hot weather as well. This is a plant, it's from Chile. So we don't grow too many plants from Chile here, but this one does wonderfully. It only starts flowering, mid-May, and it flowers just for a couple weeks till frost. So, but it's heavily flowering most of the season, including these dog days of summer whenever, nothing else really wants to flower. It's a good pollinator plant as we get tons of fruit set on it. It does have a little bit of a bad habit in that it does self-sow as a result of the fact that bees and butterflies tend to like it, and we get good fruit set on it. But it continues to flower even without having to be deadheaded, even with that. But this is in, can any of my interns guess what family this is in? I don't know if I told you. They're not going to guess. So this is in the Solanaceae. So this is related to the potato, eggplant, potato, the petunia, calibrachoa, browalia, things you've not heard of. Anyways, nicandra, tomato, a pepper family. So it's a very important family, but anyways, just one that goes on and on. It's unfazed by the heat of summer for us. And if we have a hard winter, this can get taken to the ground, or if you just want to chop it to the ground, you can chop it to the ground, and it'll get this big each year. If you don't trim it, it'll be this big. If you trim it, it'll be this big. So it's a really consistent plant, easy going. You can know what you're going to have. But again, flowers the entire season for us. Any questions? Any questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, Cestrum Parkii. It's one of the jessamines, or common names I'm not good at. So, but again, it's a Chilean, it does real well for us. Okay. Well, we get to be graced with a couple butterflies here too over here. This is one of our Gulf fritillaries, which eats passion flowers. So we're going to head just over this direction here. Truly, this is a great pollinator plant. Has anybody grown Agapanthus Fortune? Okay, I see a few hands here. This is supposedly a mutation of it. And if you look closely at this, this has a variegation to it on the leaves. It occurred in someone's garden. I have the guy's name here somewhere. Let's see here. Henry Tendus. It looks like it's French. Or Henri in that case, but it said Henry. So I'm not quite sure how to say his name. But anyways, I'm guessing he's British or French, one or the other. He found it in 2012 as just a branch mutation on his blue fortune or fortune Agapanthus. And right now, this is in peak flower. It'll flower for probably another month and a half is my guess. But in the spring, this comes up with the new growth. Will have a purple tinge to it on the variegation. So you have white and purple and green on the new growth in the spring. And then mid to late summer, you get spectacular flowering that the bees will adore. And if you brush it, you get the smell of anise or black licorice. And use the flowers, fight the birds or the bees for them. And they tend to be very preoccupied and they totally ignore you. So they aren't going to necessarily sting you, but you get tons of bumblebees on here. We'll get skipper butterflies in particular, I see on these at times, but a great pollinator plant for this mid to late summer when it is hot as blazes and you can't stand it, but the critters will enjoy it even if you aren't out to look at it. Okay, our next plant here is Fuchsia Sanihoff. This is a heat-tolerant fuchsia. I grew up growing fuchsias in Pennsylvania as we grew them most of the time as summer annuals, but they liked our cool summers in western Pennsylvania and would flower all through summer. I had a couple that were hardy, but they struggled and did come back most years. But this one for us is one that's fully hardy for us, both summer and winter. A lot of times the issue here is not our winters, but our summers will outright kill fuchsias. They tend to shut down when temperatures are in the 90s, and we don't have many of those here, do we? Yeah, so anyways, this is some breeding that was done in the 90s by the Suntory breeders in Japan. And they selected a couple really good fuchsias that take our summer heat and flower. Even if some of the other fuchsias that can take our heat just don't flower well here in the summer months. So this is one, they were able to get both characteristics of heat tolerance and heavy flowering on this plant. And if you need to, you can actually get a snack occasionally off them too. They do have edible fruit, maybe not the best tasting, but it's not bad. It's sweet in mid to late summer. But a fuchsia that will take the heat. And I hope to get out of the heat next week and see some more fuchsias in the northwest of US. But anyways, where they do grow well. So any questions about this fuchsia?
Yeah, since it's in the laugh house, does
Yes.
that mean part sun is okay?
Part sun's ideal for it. I wouldn't put it in full blazing sun here, but I have seen them out in open gardens. It's going to want a little bit of water just to keep it happy, but if you keep it evenly moist, it'll grow in an average garden in partial shade.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's its name?
It's Fuchsia Sanihoff, and I'll spell that. Sanihoff is Sanihanf. There is a trade name, but I don't remember it. It's something with angel or bells. I don't remember. But the trade name it fits about half a dozen other fuchsias, so it's like it's too confusing. That cultivar name Sanihoff is the important part. We've had these in the lath house now in a couple different places, probably for over 10 years. So. Or just about 10 years. Can't be over 10 years because we didn't plant this until September of 2012. So,
Well,
yep.
I come from deer country.
Yes, I don't know. I do not know if the deer get it. I did not have problems with growing fuchsias back home in Pennsylvania, but at the time I didn't have trouble with deer. My mom and dad have trouble with deer now, but anyways. And they don't have it anymore. But so, any other questions?
Have deer anymore, or-
No, they don't have the fuchsia anymore. Yeah, they didn't have Sanihoff. They had another. They had Magellanica, which is one of the really hardy species, but cannot. I brought it down here, and it just melts and it dies. So, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, and I forgot to ask or say what the questions were. For those who were just listening, it was, do the deer like this, and what was its name? So I actually spelled out its name. So. Yeah, I can't say on the deer, and we said Sanihoff. Okay, we're gonna head just down here a little ways again. So our next plant is this one right here. This is a Koofia. So anybody have crepe myrtles in the yard? I figure. When do they flower? And now in the heat of summer. Well, these are cousins of crepe myrtle in reality. This is in the Lythraceae, and this is one of the really hardy Koofias for us. This is one, let's see, I want to make sure I get, yes. Koofia Sanihoff, and this is a selection called Ashvilla, which was growing. Where do you think they found this one growing? I don't know. Maybe Asheville, North Carolina, and it was in Jasmine and Peter Gentling's garden out there several years ago. They found that this was one that was surviving the winters in Asheville, which is a little bit colder than us, and it also depends on your elevation out there. But started flowering for us in May, and I expect this to be in flower until we have a hard freeze. So again, doing its thing here in the heat of summer, just like its cousin crepe myrtle, as well as interns. What would be another plant that these are related to that you might eat? Pomegranate, yes. And so those are also flowering at this time of the year, though not profusely. So yeah, these are related to pomegranates and crepe myrtles. So anyways, just another much more compact plant, good pollinator plant. Hummingbirds like these. Some of the other Koofias, or most other Koofias, aren't as hardy as this. There are a few that are, and some that are hardy, like Micropetala, flower really late in the season and get a whole lot bigger than this. You don't get a lot of flowering for the proportion of the foliage. So this is one that's compact and gives you a long season, including the heat of summer. And it just gives you a lot of bang for your buck. Any questions on this little one? Yep.
Actually, question on what is that, so I won't plant it.
Marilyn is asking about this skeleton back here. That's a Baptisia. Baptisia, there aren't too many things that actually eat Baptisia. But broom caterpillars will eat Baptisia. And that has is what broom moth caterpillars are what have defoliated it, and they're actually, if you look very closely, oh, I can't get them. They're on here. So this little caterpillar is one of the few things that will defoliate a Baptisia. Most livestock won't touch it, for instance, including deer. But that little caterpillar will defoliate them. So, anybody growing pineapple lilies in their gardens? Yes, and they probably flower probably a month or so at least. I'm guessing the smaller growing ones. This is one of the later flowering and much larger species of Eucomis. This is Eucomis, and I can never spit this one out, so I have to actually look. Polyanthes. Sometimes lumped into Pallida variety Polyanthes. But this is the small growing, the giant growing Eucomis. And supposedly one can get up to 5 to 6 feet tall. Typically though, 3 to 4 feet, and we got at least 4 feet here on this. It's doing really well this year. Our clump has, since not having a holly hedge back here and a couple other things have been taken out, it is just enduring the light that we're having in this location. And it's in full flower on some of them, and others are already finished, but you can't tell. The inflorescence holds its integrity for so long. Great cut flowers on these if you have a really big bouquet. This one typically is green. Sometimes they'll flush up to a little bit of pink to purple whenever they are aging. But things don't typically eat these. I'm hoping the deer don't touch these if you have these. Yeah, so voles don't touch them. So, you know, those are two frequent questions, of course, that we get are deer and voles. The rabbits don't even bother these. And that's my other issue in the garden, or the more so than rabbits and voles here. But anyways, mid to late summer, these giant Eucomis do their thing. I also have some younger ones over there now that we've propagated off of this one here. But it's starting to look spectacular on this. This one's been in the ground for a long time, but it's enormous in comparison to any of the other pineapple lilies we have. But it does make a big statement in the hottest times of the year. So any questions about this one?
I had moved mine
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
Haven't got a single flower.
That's okay.
Okay,
It'll take time to settle back in. And had they flowered prior? Oh, I had a question about moving the Eucomis and them not flowering. So they flowered in the previous times?
They have, but this time I moved them into full shade after
Yeah,
seeing
they want them in full.
in full sun after seeing them in Toady.
Yes,
Garden.
because we have them. They used to be in full sun, and it's gradated to partial shade to shade,
Right.
and they just sit there and sulk. And so if it was in the shade, my guess is it'll take a few years to recuperate its energy before it'll start flowering well again. Okay, this one you might have to get a little closer to. You can't stand back in the shade. So the next plant here is, I can't spit this one out real well. I think it's Succisa pratensis. This is a new one to me, and supposedly it's naturalized in parts of the eastern United States, but it's not common. It's not weedy, despite that naturalization apparently. This is from Western Europe, and especially even into Britain and Ireland, where aside from this year and a couple years ago, they have mild summers. And they don't get hot and dry. And this is an unirrigated bed. Even before we started having rain, I never watered this. In the wild, this supposedly likes to grow on stream banks and meadows, though they say it will take drier conditions too. But they say don't put it in full blazing sun where it's hot and dry. And that's exactly where I had it. It looked as green as ever. And just until about a month ago, it started to push up flower stalks. And in the last 2 weeks, it's come into full bloom. So does this look familiar to anybody? Like any other plant that you may have seen? It's closely related to Scabiosa, which apparently the individual florets in here have 4 lobes on them, and Scabiosa have 5 lobes on their individual florets. And some of the Scabiosa have these almost hairy leaves, and to me they often melt in our summers. This has this glabrous leaf, it's no hairs on it, and these were just a glossy dark green until about a month ago, and now they burst into bud and flower. This is season bloom, even where it's native. I saw some references saying as early as June, but most of them were saying July, August, September, October. So this one is one that truly flowers in the heat of summer, even in England when they had their hot spell a couple weeks ago. So I'm really interested in this plant, and I think this might be a good one for us. I want to see if we can figure out how to propagate it other than by seed. It can take several years for it to bulk up enough to flower well, and these have only been in the ground 2 years. So let me see, what year is it? Yeah, we got the seed in 2020, and we planted them actually last year. So they were seedlings in a pot until last year, and they are this big around already. Much bigger than any of the Scabiosa that were growing. It makes a much more bigger impact to me. I like plants that are a little bit bigger than some of the modern stuff that's shrunk down too tiny. But bees are adoring this thing. I don't know, there's so many things going for this plant. But the other way they said to do it was by dividing, and I hate to divide these and kill them, but I'm going to try to take cuttings here and see what happens. If we have to, we will divide them or collect seed, but doing beautifully in the hot days of summer. Any questions?
Is that 2 plants?
I have to look to tell you the truth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants. 5. We had to question how many plants we had here. There's actually 5 plants. Another question? Okay, no other question.
Get this at a nursery or
I don't think so right now. You probably have to get it from order seed. We go to one of what we call indexemnas, though I haven't seen, I did a search for it and I didn't find too many sources. Probably in Europe and England, they have it, but not here. It's a roadside weed over there. So
I wondered when you said you figure out how to
that's what I want to. They were suggesting. I mean, they said, of course, seed and division. Nothing was said about cuttings, but I want to see if we can do it by cuttings. So now that I've shown this to everybody, I might let my interns and Sophia attack it to take a few cuttings and see what happens. But I'm finding this. I like this. This is one I wouldn't. Looking about where it was from, I thought that's strange that it's actually doing well here. So anyways, our next plant here is a redbud of all things. We have a couple different redbuds in the garden that are variegated, and I've been watching them for years. We have floating cloud and silver, floating cloud and silver cloud, both of which have been around for a long time. Silver cloud looks really good first thing in the spring, and then the variegation just fades. And floating cloud, it's better. It starts out more green, but then it has a creamy, then it turns nice foliage, and then it creams out during the summer. This is a newer one. This is one called Alley Cat. So this is one that was found by Alan Bush of Kentucky, and he found it in an alley near his house, hence Alley Cat. It's a really good variegated redbud, and it has some blemishes on it, but considering this is August, it looks great to me. So wonderful small tree for your landscape, good foliage, good flowers in the late winter and early spring. You can eat them, of course, so you can use them in your salads and have a snack. So just an all-around cool plant here. This one is available. I think I actually was back home and surprised this summer to go to a nursery, and they actually had this in Western Pennsylvania, which I did not expect to have them to have Alley Cat, but they did. So, but it's being produced by Hidden Hollows, which is nursery, which is a well-known grafting nursery in Tennessee. So. Any questions about this Alley Cat?
Less sun, less variegated?
Typically the inner leaves are going to be, the older inner leaves are going to be more green, and the younger leaves that are out more to the edges are going to have more variegation. They're going to age and green up.
What about fall color?
I don't know on fall color, but if fall color was a question, as well as how does do the leaves gradate in color as they get shaded, and yes, they do. They turn more green. But yeah, I can't say on fall color. I'm from Western Pennsylvania. Fall color on a redbud in general, even a good fall color on redbud to me is not spectacular. Maples, red maples, hillsides of red maples, that's fall color. So I'm partial, sorry. Any others? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go on to our next plant. Okay, so our next plant here is Gallardia estivalis glitz and glamour. This is supposedly a seed strain I was reading about, but these are vegetatively propagated, but this is one we got from Plant Delight. But it's originally from Wade Royce of the now closed Yucca Nursery in Texas. He collected it in, darn, I have to look, which county? In Austin County, Texas. So, they have cold summers. It's never hot or moist there. It's always wet there. Yeah, right? Yeah. Yes. This one can truly take the heat and drought of summer, and if you give it a little bit of water, it grows like crazy. There were 5 plants I put in here last year, and that was 5 plants, and it spreads just a tiny bit. I love the Gallardia estivalises because they do spread. They're persistent, unlike your typical Gallardias that you get in the stores, shops that rosettes that are they flower themselves to death and they're gone. These spread and persist for years, and they flower for months. This was flowering probably since mid to late May it started flowering, and we had about a week and a half, 2-week vacation where there was just a few scattered flowers on these, and it just came back from its vacation and it's in full flower again. So, and this will flower again probably until October, November, until we have hard frost. Wonderful plant if you have some space, because like I said, it does grow. When we were getting this piece of artwork put in, if you look back here, I ripped out some. It comes up from root cuttings even. So it's easy to propagate. There's a nice new patch forming back there. It spreads by underground stolons and roots. So it's a great one. Heat tolerant, drought tolerant, flowers for months in the heat of summer. Any questions? Okay, Maryland.
Will it handle our clay soil?
Yeah, Maryland asked, will it handle our clay soil? Yes, this is not the greatest soil that this is planted in. This is the soil that was underneath this road. We did amend it a little bit, but it's heavy, general, and this is going through it like no problem. And I've had other Estivalis winkleri, or Estivalis, in particular the winkleris, which are the pinks and purple flowered forms of Estivalis, and they're happy as a clam in it too. But if you put it in sand, it'll grow like crazy too. So.
Will it take part sun?
It's gonna, the more sun the better. It might take, it won't flower as heavily, a little bit more. It might be slower growing.
That's what I wondered. Exactly what I do sometimes.
It would be worth a try. It might be not be as anywhere near as dense either. So there was a question about whether it would grow in partial sun, and like that was my answer. Is it slow it down, less dense?
That might be ideal.
Maybe. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to take another walk, and I'm going to get a swallow of water in the meantime.
Is there a tag?
I don't know where the tag's at. It's eaten its tag. There might be another one down there, but it's Gallardia Estivalis Glitz and Glamour.
Did you have to deadhead it, or did it crush back on its own?
Nope, you don't have to deadhead them. As long as you don't have multiple clones of Gallardias, they typically don't sit many viable seed. They'll have seed heads, but they won't be viable, and they aren't wasting energy on producing the seed. So, yeah, isn't that thing great? Yeah. Okay, our next plant here is one for a difficult spot. Does anybody have a wet spot? Anybody have a dry spot? Okay, this fits both bills. This is Oringium pandanifolium. So, I think this is really cool. Ours have just really gotten to going this year, and flowering great, and the foliage is wonderful, and there's a really cool skipper right here. I don't remember which one this is, but it has tails. This is a less common skipper. Anyways, to the plant. This is, anybody like the desert look too? I think these look like Dazzlerions, which are mean, but you can walk into this. It has a little bit of a prickle to it, but it's not going to cut you up. This is just a South American Oringium. So, sea hollies. This is one of the sea hollies. Our North and South American sea hollies look so different from the European ones, which there's one of the European ones that's now gone to seed right over here, palmatum, but it's already brown and ugly. Well, this is coming into its own. Pandanifolium is great because it has evergreen foliage, unless we get real cold. They're zone 7B hardy, and these really cool airy inflorescence in mid to late summer. This group is just coming into full flower right now. These are fully open when they're like this color. We have some other ones in the West Arboretum which have already just finished, but they look, actually, I think they look even better over there right now. These are becoming a favorite family. Now, anybody, can you guess what these are related to? And you eat something they're really. No. 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 Carrots! So, has anybody seen the flower of a carrot? It's called. Does anybody know? Queen Anne's lace, yes. So, and what's the shape of that flower head? An umbel, which looks like a little umbrella. So these are tiny little umbrellas, acted. They have really short the stems for the flowers are really short on these. So, but these are compound umbels. That's another thing I find really cool, and I make the interns learn these. I'm glad they just didn't shout it out. But this is just, I really like these. I don't know about you guys. Wonderful foliage, and year-round actually. And then at this time of the year, you get this cool, airy inflorescence. And actually, they're wonderful for insects as well. Like I said, there was a really cool skipper on here a minute ago. Right now, I'm not seeing a lot of bees and stuff on it, but they're probably on here. They're the tiny native bees. Will adore these. So, and wasp and stuff. So, a really great plant for your landscape. It takes wet or dry. This is growing in sand in reality in here. This is a sand bed. We have it at a different bed, a little bit different media elsewhere, but it'll grow in clay as well. Not particular about anything about that. So, but fully evergreen for us here, a great plant and a bold plant. So. This is one of our native Oringiums. This is rattlesnake master is a common name for this one, if I remember correctly. This is actually done flowering, but it's just finished. But I don't care. I love the inflorescence in the remaining seed stalks. This does not stay evergreen, unlike that over there, but it has very similar leaves. This is Oringium Yucca Fortune. So this is the Oringium that looks like a yucca. And that's the Oringium that looks like a screw pine, which is what a pandanus is over there. So structurally, it's a little coarser, but you still get these strap-like blue-green leaves, and they have a little fine spine to them. It doesn't hurt at all to deal with it. But I've just been really interested in these this summer. Past years, I just kind of ignored them. This year, really, my eye. So this is its cousin. We won't stay as long here. This will grow in a wet or dry spot as well. The foliage is nice on it. The flower stalks are really cool, and for a semi-natural area, great cut flower as well. So just an interesting one for your garden in the late season. Any questions about this one? Yep, Marilyn.
So as the season goes on, what do the seed heads, do they stay that color?
They'll turn brown ultimately, and they can stay, depending on the species, they'll often stay if the birds don't get them, pretty late in the season, and they can look really cool with frost on them. So you get other seasonal interest to these as well. So, any others? Yep.
Do they start out the same color?
They start, it's at best it's a creamy white. About the same color as that. That one has a tint of purple to it, and if you look at those up closely. But not spectacular color. These are subtle, but they're there and they're die-hard through our summers.
You said they were seed heads?
These are the seed heads now. They've finished flowering.
So will they drop and reseed?
I do get some. There's actually one. Actually, here's a fresh flower stalk on this seedling. I did not plant this one over here. This is a new one. But it's a native, so you don't have to feel bad. That one is South American, though I haven't had it long enough to find out if it's going to. So I have other ones that do self-sow, but I like the American ones versus the Eurasian Oringiums a lot more.
So if we really love that one, where can we get it?
I'm not sure offhand right now. You'd have look online. You can grow them from seed. Tony Avent used to sell it years ago, but he's not selling it currently. So I don't know. You probably have to order it online if you want to get a plant. But I really like those, that structure, and it's evergreen or ever blue. So it's there all winter. Okay, so the next plant I'm talking about is this one right here. This is a tuberose. This is not your typical tuberose though. This is a hybrid tuberose. This is Polyanthes Bundrantii. And Bundrantii, if I'm even closely saying it correctly, is spelled Bundrantii, Bundrantii. But anyways, I find this, I love the flower color on this pink, corally pink, open inflorescence, just like, its two parents are the tuberose, which is Polyanthes tuberosa, and its other parent, which is red, is Polyanthes Howardii. And if you're a lumper now, they're actually probably calling this an agave, just to let you know. A deciduous agave, they want to lump them. But anyways, really cool hybrid. Flowers for a month or so here. We'll get scattered flowers actually in the fall, but the most flowering is right now in late July and August, and probably you'll get scattered flowers into September and October. And I don't know if I did this intentionally, but the combination I have here I really like, and it's happened the last 4 or 5 years, is Lycoris squamigera flowering at the same time. And I have them pop up through it. The squamigera is actively growing during the winter, and the foliage that is. And so the flowers just push up through the foliage of the Polyanthes and come up and flower with the Polyanthes. But a cool hybrid, unlike tuberose, the Polyanthes tuberosa, this is not fragrant. It takes after Howardii, and it's a non-fragrant and pollinated by hummingbirds. So, any questions about this cool Polyanthes or agave, whatever you want to call it? No questions. We're going to get to, you can just stay right there probably. They're not open yet, but this is one of my favorite days. This is one Doug found in the garden, in the border. It has a little bit, it's a little taller than your average daisy. We believe it's probably a hybrid between, or of autumn minaret, but we don't know who its other parent is. This has been flowering for and last year there were still new flowers on it the 1st of November. The flowers have not quite opened up for the day on it right now. This one's just starting to peek open. It's a little, it's a daylily, but I love the tall structure on it. The plant is way back there, and it just reaches out to see you. Different. He calls this. We just have a single quotes. We don't have a true cultivar on this. Apricot Towers. And I don't know why you'd think that. Why would you call this Apricot Towers? You know, it's tall, it is great to me, but flowers for months. Autumn minaret is flowering right now and flowers for a little over a month. This thing is repeat until October. So I really find this one really cool, and it starts at the hot time of the year again. So just a really cool daylily. Nope. No. These are some of the only plants. So it's not available at all yet. Just a cool I like in the garden right now. And we'll see if I want to divide some of it at some point. So we'll see what we can do with this. Maybe we can get it out there to sell at some point. So anyways, last plant of the morning is Hadikium Tara, I'm going to say, because Gardnerianum on it, but some think it's probably a hybrid between Gardnerianum and Coccinum. Who knows? I haven't done the DNA. Then I consider it that. I think it's more or something species, the hybrid species. But anyways, this is probably one of my all-time favorite of the Hadikiums in the garden. We have a whole bunch throughout this part here in the monocot garden. They tend to be rather vigorous and flower mostly in late summer and into the fall. So this is just getting started and flower into October anyways, probably. But this is one of the most of we have. And inflorescence on Tara, who I'll tell you a little history about Tara. She was found by Tony Schillings. She was from Nepal to Kew Gardens in the 70s, and they selected Tara, and they named her Tara after Tony's Tara. That's where that comes from. It has a Royal Society Award of Merit, and so it does well in England. It does. I've seen it spectacularly doing well in the Pacific Northwest. Hopefully, I'll see it again this coming week. When I'm in the Pacific Northwest, where it's cooler. But anyways, so it doesn't have to have our hot summers again, but it does give us some of those hot colors in the hot days of the year for us. The inflorescence supposedly can get up to 18 inches. Ours are, that's probably 12 to 15 inches anyway, so I can believe 18 inches is possible. The inflorescence. I like this, it does spread, but a little less so than some of the other Hadikium. Some like over in that area, there's Betty Hawk, one of the ones which I adore, but she spreads. And Kinkaku, the same way, spreads excessively. This is a little bit more restrained though. It has a very big rhizome. You can pass it along if you have excess. But a really good one out of a selection from the mountains, the Himalaya mountains, made by Tony Schillings of Kew in the 70s, like I said. Any questions about this plant?
Is it fine year round?
Oh my goodness, yeah, it dies to the ground. All the Hadikiums die to the ground, but yes, the question is it fine here year round? Yes. Most of the Hadikiums, there's some that are truly tropical and don't like it here or don't take our heat too. But most of the Hadikiums are fine and dandy here into Zone 7 that we're finding anyways. There are ones that won't grow here, but yeah, this has been here for years. So any other questions about Tara or anything else before we close up for the day? Everyone wants to run for shade? Yeah, there's a breeze. That's the reason I'm back out here to the monocoque. You can see the breeze. So that's a cooling effect as well. So anyways, thank you for coming out with us today to see some of the things that flower for us here and or look great at this time of the year in our hot weather we've been having. You know, just I think we're over 50 days, well over 50 days now above 90 for this year. The average is 43. And there, as far as the weather forecast is in the 90s, I think. So anyways, these are some that like it hot.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, guys.